So guys, Buttigieg, fine candidate? No, I don't think so. This is a very important thing. Buttigieg has, right now, taken a huge amount of steam away from Joe Biden. Now, this is really good because Buttigieg has not taken first place in the most ideal circumstances, and that is states that have a lot of middle-class white individuals in them. That would be Iowa, that would be New Hampshire. Now, in the process of doing this, Biden, who has actually been polling rather well with minority groups, both African-American and Latino, he seems to be specializing in African-American folks, is now sort of irrelevant at this point. He's not even going to be participating in Nevada. So by the time we get to that super firewall that we've been talking about or joking about in Super Tuesday for the longest period of time, it's going to collapse right in front of him. However, Buttigieg is now in a very difficult position. Media expectations have been increased for him. Same with Klobuchar. The problem is both Buttigieg and Klobuchar combined have like a third the minority support that Donald Trump has. Not very good. Not very good at all. Not very good when you're about to go into Nevada with a very large Latino population and South Carolina with a very large African-American population. You know who does do really well in those sort of situations? Bernie Sanders. So we're going to see a clip where Buttigieg is trying his damnedest to, let's say, remain relevant in these upcoming contests where no one really wants him. Let's see it.
Check it out. Pete Buttigieg has actually been focusing on Medicare for all. And one of the things he said to CNN this morning was about union health care plans. And I just want to play that for our viewers. It's from CNN this morning.
When you're in Nevada, you talk to a lot of folks, including workers in organizations like the Culinary Workers Union and other labor organizations that have fought hard for good health care plans. And Senator Sanders' message that he's going to erase those plans and replace them with a single government plan for everybody is going to be, I think, a very tough sell among voters who want to have that choice.
That's a 60,000-member union. He says they're handing out flyers saying that you want to end health care for their workers and their families.
No, it's not exactly what that flyer is about. But the truth is, I have far more union support, to the best of my knowledge, than Mr. Buttigieg does. And in fact, many of the unions are strongly supporting of a Medicare for all single-payer system. And I'll tell you why. Because when unions sit down and negotiate with their employers, very often what the employer will say, well, you know, I can give you a 2% wage increase, but I'm going to have to cut back on your health care benefits. Talk to any union official, and they will tell you they spend half their lives just trying to protect the health care benefits that they have. We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. And in those countries, unions don't have to defend the health care benefits they have. They already have health care. They can talk about better wages and better working conditions. So I think what you will find is that many of the unions are supportive of Medicare for all because it is comprehensive health care. You lose your job, you got it. You're old, you got it. You're young, you got it. You're unemployed, you got it. It is where this country, in my view, has got to go.
You know the criticism, obviously, of Iowa and New Hampshire, largely white, rural populations, not representative of most of the country. Next context, obviously, is Nevada, then South Carolina, much more diverse states. There was a national Quinnipiac poll this week. It showed Mike Bloomberg leading you among African-American voters, 22 to 19%. Again, a lot of people haven't actually seen Mike Bloomberg in the flesh. They've just seen his TV commercials. But does that concern you?
Look, I think at the end of the day, when people, A, learn about Mr. Bloomberg's record of stop and frisk in New York City, I think that will change some minds. But second of all, I think when people understand that in our democratic society, we have an individual worth some $60 billion who in an unprecedented way, Anderson, is literally trying to buy the elections. He didn't compete in Iowa, where all the Democratic candidates did, nor in New Hampshire, nor in Nevada, nor in South Carolina. He didn't hold town meetings. He didn't talk to people, answer questions. All he did is take a small part of his $60 billion, put it into TV commercials, and I guess that can get you votes. But at the end of the day, it is my firm belief that our kind of grassroots coalition, It's a multi-generational, multi-racial coalition with millions of people knocking on doors, volunteering, making small campaign contributions. We're going to defeat a billionaire.
James Carville, who's obviously a longtime Clinton loyalist, was supporting Senator Michael Bennet, who obviously dropped out of the primary race last night. He said this week that core Democratic voters aren't interested in being in what he said a cult. He said they're not interested in socialism and revolution and other things he called foolishness, and that, quote, I don't know how you win an election 78 years old screaming in a microphone about the revolution. I don't know if he was actually screaming at the time, although it's very possible, knowing James. But so I want to give you a chance to respond.
Look, James, in all due respect, is a political hack who said very terrible things when he was working for Clinton against Barack Obama. I think he said some of the same things. Look, we are taking on the establishment. This is no secret to anybody. We're taking on the wall. I guess the former head of Goldman Sachs attacked me yesterday.
Yeah, he had
We're
some
taking on Wall
well.
Street. He did, yeah, Wall Street. And the insurance companies don't like me. And you know what? The pharmaceutical industry, which is charging us 10 times more for the same drugs they sell in Canada, they don't like me either. Nor does the fossil fuel industry, because their product happens to be destroying our planet. Nor does the military-industrial complex or the prison-industrial complex. We are taking on Trump, the Republican establishment, Carville, and the Democratic establishment. But at the end of the day, the grassroots movement that we are putting together of young people, of working people, of people of color, want real change.
But you know,
and they want us to take.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you know, though, it's not all, just establishment folks who have a vested interest. I mean, there are, American citizens who, went out to vote in New Hampshire and voted for Klobuchar or voted for Buttigieg or in some cases Biden, who just feel like revolution is it's just too much. They maybe like their plans. They don't want their insurance taken away for something else in government hands they don't have, any idea about.
Well, first of all, I think if you look at the issues that we are talking about, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, enormously popular. Demanding that the wealthy and the powerful and large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes, enormously powerful and popular. Making public colleges and universities tuition free. As I said earlier, Medicare for all was one of the reasons we won in New Hampshire. It is very popular in New Hampshire, and I suspect among Democrats all over this country. Criminal justice reform, immigration reform. These are issues that the American people, in fact, support. And we're going to win this election because we are prepared to stand up to Wall Street and the corporate elite and finally do what the American people want.
Senator Bernie Sanders, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, let's break that down.
Yeah, because there's a lot to unpack.
Let's break that down real quick. So let's go through. So we were talking earlier. I was talking earlier when I was introducing the story about, hey, Buttigieg is on this bad situation where he's not going to do well. How does Anderson Cooper take that point of view? Well, he's like, unions don't like you, Bernie. One of the silliest statements one could make about Senator Bernard Sanders, because, as you know, he has a huge amount of union support, far more than Buttigieg does, but because they can't give him the obvious. Anderson Cooper can't go, wow, you just won the first two states. You're about to go into a state that Biden has just abandoned, and you're going to be facing against two frontrunners who have done a terrible job, have terrible reputation with the constituency of that state. Aren't you lucky? Aren't you happy that you're going to get this? No, that's not what we get. Instead, we get, hey, the unions really hate you, Bernie. Let's literally just verbatim say the thing that Buttigieg said. Let's ignore the entire thing that you're about to walk in with an advantage, and instead take this huge advantage you have with Latinos, just ignore it. Take this huge advantage you have with African Americans and go, hey, what about Bloomberg, the guy who's not even participating in the next two states? So when Anderson Cooper brings up that right now Bloomberg is polling really well with African Americans, but then he also brings up the next two states, that's disingenuous. That's just completely disingenuous. It has nothing to do with reality because, again, Bloomberg's putting his money and time into Super Tuesday states.
Yep.
Let's say it again. Super Tuesday states. Not Nevada, not South Carolina. So, again, who had a chance at that? Biden. So why doesn't Anderson Cooper go, hey, you had one person who had a decent job of comparing with you with minority voters, and that is Joe Biden. And boy, did he get screwed in New Hampshire. Did he get screwed in Iowa? You must be really happy that you're positioned so well. That's not what we get. Instead, we get question after question. It's like they're doing everything they can to weave into like a perceived possible maybe this is bad in some way, shape, or form with Bernie Sanders. They go and literally say that Buttigieg is saying that you're bad with unions, and it must be true because Buttigieg said it, that you're not doing well in states that Bloomberg... What do you guys think?
So there's a different perspective I want to take from this, and that is, remember earlier in the show when we talked about how corporate media is still trying to hold on to that narrative that Biden is his front runner, but now that narrative is starting to break, and so they're going for their next best thing, especially for Super Tuesday, and that is Bloomberg. And because Bloomberg is with the establishment, he's a Republican running in a Democratic primary, they're trying to portray him as this mayor who can get things done. New York, a major metropolitan city, but let's ask the people of New York how Bloomberg did as mayor, how his time as mayor was for them. Because let's remember, stop and frisk was a pretty big thing that happened, and it mostly targeted minority communities. People of color were harassed by the police under Bloomberg's term as mayor of New York City. And the thing is, right now, when you go on social media, on YouTube, and even in the newspapers, even in traditional television, and even in the mail, I'm seeing this portrayal of Bloomberg as this guy who cares about the working class. Bloomberg is no FDR. Look, keep billionaires at arm's length. FDR, maybe Theodore Roosevelt are probably the exception, but that's not saying much.
He wasn't even a billionaire.
Yeah, I know he wasn't. But I mean, in regards to somebody in high society, upper echelon, somebody who's from a family that makes money, Bloomberg isn't FDR. He's not that kind of person who's going to care about the working class. Bloomberg probably never did in the first place. There are articles of him talking about how much money he made in the 1960s and 70s as a Wall Street trader. There are articles showing him making sexist, misogynist remarks. There are articles and now videos out there showing what he originally thought of basically people of color. I mean, that video is out there going viral. And in 48 hours right now, Bloomberg and his campaign are struggling right now to somehow bottle that all up. But once it's out there on the internet, it's going to be out there for forever. And so the situation is that you're seeing corporate media now slowly pivot away from Biden. They're still going to probably hold out hope for him in some way, shape, or form, however pathetic it'll be. But they're going to slowly pivot towards either Bloomberg, Buttigieg, probably Bloomberg because he's a billionaire. And corporate media, and they love to have access to the billionaire. Paul, let's get your perspective.
Well, I don't think they care so much who it actually goes to, right? I don't think the big strategy is we're gonna get one candidate in there that's gonna win it all. Their strategy at this point is just make sure Bernie doesn't win it all, right? Just make sure that we deny him as much as possible from anywhere, any direction it comes from. It doesn't even really matter. And so that's why you see Anderson Cooper dance around nonsense points and be like, yeah, but it seems like voters, want, things with healthcare and education and stuff, and they think they don't want your revolution. I'm like, yeah, that's why he talks about healthcare and education and living wage and stuff all the time. Like, are you not paying attention? And why are we invoking James Clapper? Why is he important at all? Like a straight up 90s Clinton era, like warmongering politician. He's just a loudmouth dude that is trotted out and paraded around on mainstream press to be like, look, we found other, important people that you used to see in the news that also think Bernie Sanders is a crazy socialist. Oh my God, Bernie's so bad. That's the whole clip. That's everything is just BS talking points, negative things about Bernie to just sort of bolster that particular angle of not Bernie, anyone else but Bernie.
So here's what I love about our audience, because sometimes, man, they just type something up that's really great. Chet's mom wrote this: DNC wants Bloomberg/Warren, and they will call it a unity ticket. Because you got your billionaire, and then you got your progressive. No danger to the establishment. Nothing's going to get done, status quo, and we all go back to normal. But yet, there's a photo on the interwebs that's showing good old Michael Bloomberg on Donald Trump's golf resort, right next to good old Donald Trump.
They're all friends.
They are all friends, but let's quit this narrative of, let's have two billionaires fight each other. I mean, they're all in the same social class. They're all friends with each other. They all know the same people in the upper echelon society. In what world does anyone think that those people who are in the top society really care about us? They had years, decades to change the system, and they didn't. They never did, and they never will. And putting your hopes in a billionaire like Bloomberg will be a complete disaster because you know what? Trump supporters will show out in mass over any Democratic voter that would probably be supporting Bloomberg. Bloomberg doesn't have what it takes. Biden doesn't have what it takes. And when Bernie Sanders speaks the truth, corporate media is going to try to do whatever they can to control that narrative, but it's not working.
So
Daniel,
I just want to
final
say,
words.
since the story has been shifted from a story about Buttigieg to one about Bloomberg, now we kind of got both of them in there. I just want to go back to Buttigieg originally and say that in the whole mix of this, the whole point that we have to remember is that he has now been elevated by the media to be this person who is now it's the anyone but Bernie candidate, as Paul pointed out. And he's going to fall in Nevada, and we can't let the media just make a narrative that's literally a carbon copy of Buttigieg's narrative that the solution is Bernie is bad with unions. No. We have to be careful. And again, this is going to be another case, I'm sure, where Bernie's campaign is going to have to be in the thick of these caucuses to make sure shenanigans don't go down. I don't think it's going to be as bad as Iowa, but they're going to have to stay vigilant nonetheless.
Well, they're taking Rick Sanchez's advice and not developing the app. So
no, they have an app.
Oh God, no.
They have an app. It's just a different app.
Well, we'll touch on the Pete Buttigieg's comment a little bit more in the second half of the show when we talk about. We'll go into this particular union, this culinary union in Nevada, a little bit because this is the argument that is going around a lot, and it's kind of not great and interesting. And
it's all based off of like a handout card.
Yeah,
it's like a handout card. If you read the handout card, it's like not even like if you don't look at it from a cynical point of view, it's sort of factual. But it's not,
It's messed up.